20 high-value crops that outperform corn and soybeans, backed by market data. What if I told you the biggest risk in farming today isn't what you think? It's not the weather, it's not fuel costs, it's not even land prices. The biggest risk, growing the exact same thing as 10 million other farmers. Here's what nobody talks about. Corn sold for around $4.50 per bushel last season. That's roughly 8 cents per pound. Soybeans? Maybe 13 cents per pound if you're lucky. Now imagine crops that sell for $15 per pound, $30 per pound. Some even hit $80 per pound. I'm not talking about get-rich-quick schemes. I'm talking about real crops with real markets, crops backed by billion-dollar industries, crops that NASA has researched, crops that chefs are literally calling suppliers begging to buy. Most farmers have no idea these markets even exist. They're stuck in the commodity trap, competing on volume while margins get thinner every single year. But here's the thing. While everyone's fighting over corn and soybean prices, there's a whole different world of agriculture happening. High-value specialty crops serving premium markets with customers who actually want to pay more, not less. Today, I'm breaking down 20 crops that statistically outperform traditional commodities, not opinions, market data, real numbers from real markets. Stick with me because number 2 on this list doubles its weight every single day and was studied by NASA for space missions. Number 11 is riding a multi-billion-dollar wellness wave that shows zero signs of slowing. And number 19 serves Asian restaurants that can't find enough domestic supply and are paying premium prices for anyone who can grow it. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button. We drop videos like this every week and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Let's get into it. Here are 20 high-value crops that outperform corn and soybeans, ranked from impressive to absolutely game-changing. Number 1, Moringa, the supplement industry's protein powerhouse. Let's start with something that's creating serious buzz in health markets, Moringa oleifera. This fast-growing tree produces leaves that sell dried for $20 to $40 per pound. Compare that to corn at 8 cents per pound. Here's what makes Moringa special. The leaves contain massive amounts of vitamins A and C, calcium, and protein. We're talking genuine nutritional density that the supplement industry absolutely craves. The tree itself grows crazy fast. In tropical and subtropical climates, you can see 15 feet of growth in year 1, and here's the kicker. You can harvest the leaves multiple times per year without killing the tree. It's a perennial cash crop that keeps producing. The market dynamics are perfect. The global superfood supplement market is exploding. People want plant-based nutrition. They want high-protein alternatives. Moringa delivers both, and most of the supply is still imported. Here's the business opportunity. If you're in zones 9 through 11 or you have greenhouse space, Moringa grows easily. The dried leaves go into powders, capsules, and teas. Companies are actively looking for domestic suppliers because import costs and quality control issues make local growers extremely attractive. This isn't some obscure plant nobody wants. Type Moringa powder into Amazon right now. Look at the sales numbers. Look at the prices. That's real demand. The reason Moringa outperforms commodity crops is simple math. Higher price per pound plus multiple harvests per year plus perennial production equals revenue that corn and soybeans simply cannot match on the same land. Think of it as protein production, but instead of feeding it to animals, you're selling directly to the supplement market at premium prices. Number 2, duckweed, the NASA-researched protein factory. This one blows people's minds. Duckweed. That tiny aquatic plant floating on ponds that most people think is just green scum. It sells dried for $20 to $60 per pound, and NASA literally researched it for life support systems in space. Why would NASA care about pond scum? Because duckweed is the fastest growing plant on Earth. Under optimal conditions, it doubles its biomass every 24 to 48 hours. Read that again. It doubles every single day. But here's what makes it valuable. The dry weight is 35 to 45% protein. That's higher than soybeans, higher than most animal feeds. And growing interest in alternative proteins means demand is accelerating. The markets are diverse. Aquaculture operations use it as fish food. The animal feed industry is exploring it as a sustainable protein source. The supplement industry wants it for protein powders. Some companies are even developing it for human food. Here's the business angle. You can grow massive amounts in small ponds or tanks. The growth rate means you can harvest continuously. The protein content justifies premium pricing, and production costs are relatively low once your system is established. Most people have dismissed duckweed because it doesn't look valuable. It's not glamorous. You can't Instagram it like rows of corn, but that's exactly why it's an opportunity. The alternative protein market is worth billions and growing. From plant-based meats to sustainable fish feed, industries are desperate for high-protein crops that don't require massive land inputs. Duckweed solves that problem. This is what I mean by market gaps. Everyone sees pond scum. Smart growers see a protein factory that NASA took seriously enough to research for feeding astronauts. Number 3, saffron. The spice that's literally worth more than gold, saffron, Crocus sativus. The most expensive spice in the world by weight, and for once that's not marketing hype. High-quality saffron sells for $500 to $5,000 per pound. Yes, you heard that right, per pound. Here's why. Each crocus flower produces exactly 3 tiny red stigmas. That's your saffron. It takes roughly 150 flowers to produce 1 gram of dried saffron. Everything is harvested by hand. There's no mechanizing this process. So why grow it? Because you don't need much land. A quarter-acre plot, properly managed, can generate revenue that would take 40 acres of corn to match. The market is established and global. From Spanish paella to Italian risotto to Indian biryani to Persian rice dishes, saffron is irreplaceable in high-end cooking. Chefs need it. Home cooks pursuing authentic recipes need it. The cosmetics industry uses it. The supplement market wants it. Here's what makes this practical. Saffron crocus grows in temperate climates. Zones 6 through 9 work well. The corms are planted in late summer, flowers appear in fall. And after harvest, the plants go dormant. They're perennials that multiply over time. Yes, the labor is intensive. Yes, you're harvesting tiny threads by hand, but the math works. Even small-scale growers report $20,000 to $40,000 per quarter acre when they dial in their process and find buyers. The key is quality and marketing. Low-grade saffron is commodity-priced. High-grade saffron with proven origin and quality commands premium pricing. This is where direct-to-consumer sales, restaurant relationships, and specialty food channels come in. Saffron didn't make this list because it's easy. It made the list because the value per square foot is extraordinary when executed properly. That's what outperforming commodity crops actually means. Number 4, ginseng. The patient grower's retirement plan. Panax ginseng, American ginseng. This is for growers who think long-term and understand that some crops are investments, not quick flips. Ginseng roots take 4 to 6 years to reach a market maturity, but when they do, they sell for $300 to $600 per pound dried. Some premium roots go even higher. Here's the market. Traditional Chinese medicine has used ginseng for thousands of years. That market isn't going anywhere. The supplement industry in the West has embraced it for energy and wellness. Export demand to Asian markets is consistent and strong. The business model is different from annual crops. You're essentially planting a retirement account. The roots grow slowly in shaded forest floors or under artificial shade structures. You maintain the plot, you wait, and in 5 years, you harvest value. Growers report $30,000 to $100,000 per acre depending on quality, market timing, and buyer relationships. That's not annual, that's total return after 5 years. But compare that to what 5 years of corn produces on the same acre minus inputs, labor, and equipment. Here's why this matters. Ginseng requires minimal tillage. You're using land that might otherwise sit idle or generate low value. The inputs are relatively modest once established. and the end product stores well and has stable international demand. This isn't for everyone. You need patience, you need suitable habitat or infrastructure, and you need to understand that you're playing a different game than the annual cropping. But for growers with forest land or shade capacity, ginseng represents value creation that commodity crops simply cannot deliver. It's the difference between farming for cash flow and farming for wealth building. Number 5. Garlic. And not just garlic, gourmet garlic. Most people think garlic is garlic. They're wrong, and that's exactly where the opportunity lives. Standard commercial garlic might sell for $2 to $4 per pound wholesale. Gourmet heirloom varieties, $8 to $20 per pound direct to consumer. Some rare varieties hit $25 per pound. Allium sativum comes in hundreds of varieties. Hardneck varieties like German white, chestnut red, and purple glazer have complex flavors, beautiful appearance, and loyal followings among serious home cooks and chefs. Here's the market dynamic. People who care about food quality are willing to pay for flavor. Farmers market customers, CSA members, restaurant chefs building menus around seasonal ingredients. These aren't price shoppers, they're quality buyers. The production model is straightforward: plant cloves in fall, harvest bulbs in midsummer, cure properly, store in cool, dry conditions. Garlic keeps for months, which means you can sell year-round from a single harvest. 1 acre of garlic, properly managed, can yield 10,000 to 15,000 pounds. At even $6 per pound direct market pricing, that's $60,000 to $90,000 gross per acre. Compare that to corn. Here's what makes this accessible. You don't need specialized equipment. You don't need certifications. You need good soil, proper variety selection, and direct market relationships. The farmer's market vendor selling $12 per pound garlic in July is making more per pound than the commodity garlic farmer selling $3 per pound to distributors. Same crop, different market, different outcome. Gourmet garlic works because it combines proven cultivation methods with premium market positioning. See, you're not competing with California on volume. You're competing on flavor, freshness, and story. That's a winnable game. Number 6. Lavender. The crop with 3 revenue streams: Lavandula angustifolia, English lavender. This perennial does something most crops can't. It generates income from multiple sources simultaneously. Stream 1, fresh-cut flowers. Farmers markets and florists pay $4 to $12 per bunch. Stream 2, dried flowers and buds for sachets, crafts, and culinary use, selling for $15 to $40 per pound. Stream 3, essential oil, which sells for $80 to $150 per pound or more for high-quality therapeutic grade. But here's Stream 4 that most growers overlook: agritourism. Lavender fields in bloom create Instagram moments, you-pick operations, farm visits, event hosting. As some growers report that agritourism revenue exceeds their crop revenue. The market drivers are strong. The natural cosmetics industry uses lavender extensively. The aromatherapy market is growing. Home crafters buy dried lavender constantly, and consumers associate lavender with relaxation and quality, which supports premium pricing. Here's what makes lavender practical: it's a perennial. Plant once, harvest for 10 to 15 years. It's drought-tolerant once established, which matters as water costs rise. It requires minimal fertilizer, and it thrives in poor soils that wouldn't support row crops well. A quarter acre of lavender can generate $15,000 to $30,000 annually when you're working multiple revenue streams. The cash flow is seasonal, but the labor is manageable for small operations. The key is understanding that lavender isn't just a crop, it's a business model. The plants produce the raw material. Your job is capturing value through processing, direct sales, and experience offerings. This is what diversification actually looks like. Not 10 different annual crops, one perennial crop with multiple market channels. That's how you outperform commodities while reducing risk. Number 7. Stevia, the zero-calorie sweetener revolution, Stevia rebaudiana. The leaves of this plant are 200 to 300 times sweeter than sugar but contain 0 calories. The global stevia market is worth over $600 million and growing at 8% annually. Here's what changed. Consumers are moving away from both sugar and artificial sweeteners. They want natural. They want zero-calorie. Stevia is the answer, and major beverage companies have embraced it. The dried leaves sell for $20 to $40 per pound for food-grade quality. But here's the interesting part. While processed stevia extract is competitive and industrial, simple dried stevia leaves for tea and home use represent a different market entirely. Home gardeners and health-conscious consumers want fresher dried stevia leaves to make their own sweeteners. Small companies want locally sourced stevia for specialty tea blends. That direct market pricing is where growers capture value. Stevia grows as a tender perennial in warm climates or as an annual in cooler regions. The leaves can be harvested multiple times during the growing season. Production is relatively simple with basic greenhouse or field knowledge. Here's the market opportunity. The wellness industry wants ingredients with stories. Locally grown stevia sells better than industrial stevia extract from overseas. Small batch tea companies and health food brands will pay premiums for domestic supply with quality assurance. One of the smartest moves is value-added processing. Selling dried leaves is good. Selling branded stevia tea blends is better. Selling fresh plants to home gardeners at farmers markets is another channel entirely. The reason stevia outperforms traditional crops is market positioning. You're not competing in the industrial sweetener market. You're serving the natural wellness market where customers care about sourcing, quality, and story. That's premium pricing territory. Number 8. Shiitake mushrooms. The umami profit factory. Lentinella edodes. Shiitake mushrooms sell fresh for $12 to $20 per pound retail. Dried, so they go for $40 to $80 per pound, and you can grow them indoors year-round without farmland. Here's what makes mushrooms different. You're not growing plants in soil. You're cultivating fungi on logs or substrate. The production model is completely different from traditional agriculture, which means you're not competing with commodity farmers at all. The market is expanding rapidly. Shiitakes are the second most cultivated mushroom globally. Chefs love them for umami flavor. Health-conscious consumers want them for immune support compounds. Asian cuisines require them. And the grow local, eat local movement favors small-scale producers. Here's the opportunity. You can start mushroom production in a garage, basement, or small structure. The startup costs are modest. The learning curve is real but manageable. And once you dial in your process, production is consistent. Fresh shiitakes from a local grower sell at farmers markets and to restaurants at prices that imported mushrooms can't touch. The quality difference is obvious, the freshness matters, and consumers will pay for it. Growers report that 100 square feet of growing space can produce $1,000 to $2,000 per month in mushrooms once systems are optimized. That's $12,000 to $24,000 annually from the space most people use for storage. The key is understanding that this isn't farming as most people know it, it's cultivation. It's more like running a small-scale manufacturing operation. You're controlling environment, substrate, humidity, and harvest timing. Shiitakes made this list because they prove you don't need land to outperform commodity agriculture. You need knowledge, process, and market access. Get those three right, and 100 square feet beats 10 acres of corn. Number 9. Microgreens, the 10-day cash crop. This is where things get interesting for anyone who needs fast cash flow. Microgreens have a 7 to 21-day harvest cycle. That means you can turn your growing space 15 to 50 times per year. These are vegetable seedlings harvested at the first true leaf stage, tiny, nutrient-dense, intensely flavored, and they sell for $25 to $50 per pound to restaurants and at farmers markets. Here's the math. One 10 by 20 growing tray produces roughly 1 to 2 pounds of microgreens. That's $25 to $100 gross per tray. With a 10-day turnaround, each tray space can generate $900 to $3,600 per year. The restaurant market drives this. Chefs use microgreens as garnishes and in salads. The visual appeal matters as much as flavor. Instagram culture has made food presentation critical, and microgreens deliver that premium look. Here's what makes this accessible. You can start with minimal space, a spare bedroom, a basement with grow lights, a small greenhouse. The startup costs are low: seeds, trays, growing medium, lights if needed. You can be harvesting in 10 days. The key is consistency and relationships. Restaurants need reliable weekly supply. Farmers market customers expect you every week. Once you establish those channels, you have recurring revenue that most crops can't match. Some growers focus on common varieties like sunflower, pea shoots, and radish. Others differentiate with specialty mixes or unusual varieties. Both approaches work if you understand your market. Microgreens outperform commodity crops on revenue per square foot per year. The speed of turnover combined with premium pricing means you're generating income continuously, not waiting for annual harvests. This is farming for people who want monthly income, not seasonal income. That's a fundamentally different business model, and it works. Number 10. Wasabi. The real deal that most people have never tasted. Here's something most people don't know. That green paste served with sushi. It's almost never real wasabi. It's horseradish, mustard, and food coloring. Real wasabi, Wasabia japonica, sells for $75 to $150 per pound fresh. Some premium grades go higher, and the reason is simple. It's extremely difficult to grow, which means supply is limited and demand far exceeds availability. Wasabi requires very specific conditions: cool running water, shade, precise temperature control, high humidity. Most environments can't support it naturally. But if you can create those conditions, you're growing something that sushi restaurants and high-end Japanese establishments desperately want and cannot find. Here's the market reality. Most wasabi in the US is fake. Chefs know it. Customers don't. But when restaurants can source real wasabi, they advertise it. It becomes a selling point. That creates demand with customers who will pay premium prices for authenticity. The cultivation is challenging. We're talking about 18 to 24 months from planting to harvest. You need specific water systems, temperature control, attention to detail. This is not a beginner crop, but here's why it's on this list. For growers with the right conditions, particularly in the Pacific Northwest or areas with cold, clean water sources, wasabi represents an ultra-premium market with virtually no domestic competition. One established wasabi grower can supply dozens of restaurants at prices that make the long production cycle worthwhile. We're talking about crops that can generate $30,000 to $60,000 per 1,000 square feet when done right. Wasabi teaches an important lesson. Sometimes the most profitable crops are the hardest to grow. Not because you want difficulty, but because difficulty creates barriers to entry, and barriers to entry mean less competition and higher prices for those who succeed. Number 11. Ashwagandha, the adaptogen boom, Withania somnifera. This root crop is absolutely exploding in the wellness industry, and domestic production hasn't caught up to demand. Ashwagandha is classified as an adaptogen, an herb that helps the body manage stress. On the supplement market for adaptogens is worth billions and growing at double-digit rates annually, and ashwagandha is one of the top sellers. The dried root sells for $25 to $60 per pound wholesale. Organic commands higher prices. Tested and verified quality commands even more. Most ashwagandha is imported from India, which creates opportunity for domestic growers. Here's why this matters. Supplement companies want reliable domestic supply. Import disruptions, quality concerns, and shipping costs make U.S.-grown ashwagandha attractive. If you can deliver certified organic with lab testing, you're offering something buyers actively seek. The cultivation is relatively straightforward. It's an annual crop in most climates. Plant in spring, harvest roots in fall. The growing conditions are similar to tomatoes: moderate water, full sun, well-drained soil. The market dynamics are perfect. Mental health and stress management are mainstream conversations now. From executives to students to parents, everyone is looking for stress support. Ashwagandha is one of the most researched and trusted options. Here's the business angle. You can sell directly to supplement manufacturers. You can process and sell powdered root to herb shops. You can create value-added products. The market channels are diverse. 1 acre of ashwagandha can yield 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of dried root depending on conditions. At $30 to $50 per pound, that's $30,000 to $100,000 gross per acre. Compare that to corn and the difference is stark. Ashwagandha works because you're serving a trend that's not going away. Stress isn't decreasing. Wellness spending isn't declining. You're positioning yourself in a growth market, not a commodity market. That's how you build sustainable, high-value crop operations. Number 12. Specialty organic blueberries. The perennial that keeps giving. Vaccinium corymbosum. Yes, blueberries are common. But organic you-pick blueberries at farmers markets selling for $6 to $12 per pound are not competing with $3 per pound supermarket berries. Here's what makes blueberries work as a high-value crop. They're perennial. Plant once, harvest for 20 to 30 years. They're attractive to direct market customers. The health benefits are well known. And organic certification commands serious premiums. The you-pick model is particularly interesting. Customers pick their own fruit and pay retail prices. You're eliminating harvest labor while capturing full retail margin. Families treat it as an outing, not just shopping. One established blueberry farm in Oregon reports $15,000 to $25,000 per acre annually from organic you-pick operations. The labor is pruning, weeding, and customer management. Customers do the harvesting. Here's why this outperforms commodities. Blueberries are a long-term investment that appreciates. Year-old bushes produce modestly, 5-year-old bushes produce heavily, 10-year-old bushes are cash machines. The antioxidant reputation drives demand. From smoothie enthusiasts to health-conscious parents to older adults focused on cognitive health, blueberries have broad appeal. That's a stable market. The key is understanding that the direct market model is everything. Wholesale blueberries compete on price. Direct market organic blueberries compete on quality, experience, and story. You want to be in the second category. Some growers add value by freezing, making jams, or creating dried blueberry products. Each processing step captures more margin. That's how you go from farming to agribusiness. Blueberries made this list because they combine perennial production with premium direct market pricing and established consumer demand. That's a proven formula for outperforming row crops. Number 13. Hemp, the comeback crop with multiple revenue streams. Cannabis sativa grown for industrial purposes. This is not marijuana. It's hemp, legally distinct, federally legal in most regions, and serving several high-value markets simultaneously. Hemp fiber is used in textiles, building materials, and biocomposites. Hemp seed is sold for food, oil, and supplements. Hemp grown for CBD extraction serves the wellness market. 3 different markets from one crop. The fiber market is re-emerging as sustainable materials gain traction. Hemp grows quickly, requires minimal pesticides, and produces strong fiber for everything from clothing to hempcrete building material. Hemp seed sells for $1 to $3 per pound as a food product, but the oil extracted from it commands premium pricing in the health food market. High in omega-3 fatty acids, it's positioned as a superfood oil. CBD hemp is the most discussed market. While regulations vary and markets fluctuate, established growers with buyer relationships report $15,000 to $40,000 per acre for CBD flower when market conditions are favorable. Here's what makes hemp interesting. The plant is hardy, it grows in diverse climates, it requires relatively low inputs, and it's versatile enough that if one market softens, other markets exist. The challenge is regulation and market volatility. You absolutely must understand local laws and have buyer contracts before planting. This is not a plant it and they will come crop. It's a relationship and compliance crop. For growers who do the homework, hemp represents diversification that commodity crops cannot offer. You're serving textile industries, food markets, and wellness markets simultaneously. That's risk reduction through product diversity. Hemp works because it's both old and new. Historically important, recently re-legalized and riding multiple market trends from sustainability to wellness. Get the legal and market pieces right, and it outperforms traditional crops. Number 14. Vanilla. The second most expensive spice, and you can grow it. Vanilla planifolia. Real vanilla beans sell for $200 to $600 per pound depending on quality and market conditions. This is the second most expensive spice after saffron. Here's why vanilla is so valuable. The orchid must be hand-pollinated. The beans require months of careful curing. The process is labor-intensive and skill-dependent, but the result is a flavor that synthetic vanillin cannot replicate. Most vanilla comes from Madagascar, Mexico, and Tahiti, but vanilla can be grown in greenhouse environments in temperate climates if you can provide the right conditions: warmth, humidity, support structures for the climbing vine. The market is enormous. Real vanilla is used in premium ice creams, baked goods, perfumes, and cosmetics. Food companies pay premium prices for quality beans because consumers can taste the difference. Here's the business reality. Vanilla takes 3 to 4 years from planting to first harvest. The vines need support structures. Pollination must be done by hand. Curing takes expertise. This is not a simple crop. But for growers with greenhouse space and willingness to learn a specialized skill, vanilla represents an ultra-premium market. A single 1,000 square foot greenhouse can potentially produce $20,000 to $40,000 in cured beans once production is established. The key is understanding that you're not competing with Madagascar on volume. You're offering locally grown, premium quality, fresh beans to high-end bakeries, chocolatiers, and specialty food companies. That's a completely different value proposition. Vanilla made this list because it proves that some crops are worth the complexity when the end value justifies the effort. Not every crop needs to be easy. Some crops reward specialization. Number 15, turmeric. The golden root riding the wellness wave, curcuma longa. This bright orange rhizome is experiencing massive growth in both culinary and supplement markets. Fresh turmeric sells for $8 to $15 per pound. Dried and powdered, it goes for $20 to $40 per pound organic. The curcumin supplement market is one of the fastest growing segments in wellness. Research on anti-inflammatory properties has driven demand through the roof. From joint health to cognitive function, curcumin is everywhere. But here's the opportunity. Most turmeric is imported. Quality varies. Heavy metal contamination has been found in some imports. Domestic growers who can provide certified organic tested turmeric have buyers ready to pay premium prices. Turmeric grows as a perennial in tropical climates or as an annual in temperate zones. Plant the rhizome in spring, harvest in fall. The growing conditions are similar to ginger: warm, moist, well-drained soil. The production model works for small scale. You don't need huge acreage. A quarter acre properly managed can produce 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of fresh rhizome. Dry that down and you're looking at 400 to 800 pounds of dried product at $25 to $40 per pound. Here's what makes turmeric strategic. It serves two markets. Culinary demand from restaurants and home cooks is stable. Supplement demand from manufacturers is growing. If one market softens, the other provides stability. The value-added opportunity is significant. Fresh turmeric at farmers markets, dried powder to herb shops, extract sales to supplement companies. You can work multiple channels from one crop. Turmeric outperforms commodity crops because it's riding consumer trends that show no signs of reversing. People want natural anti-inflammatory support. They want to cook with fresh quality ingredients. Turmeric delivers both. You're just the supplier who makes it available. Number 16, pistachios, the drought-tolerant orchard investment, Pistacia vera. Pistachio nuts sell for $6 to $12 per pound wholesale. Retail prices go higher, and here's what makes them interesting for the right grower. They're extremely drought-tolerant once established. Pistachios are a long-term play, 7 to 10 years to significant production, but mature orchards in California report $4,000 to $8,000 per acre annually. That's sustained income for 40 to 50 years from a single planting. The global pistachio market is strong. From snack nuts to baking ingredients to Middle Eastern cuisines, demand is broad. The U.S. is one of the world's largest producers, and most of that production happens in California's Central Valley. Here's why this matters for some growers. If you're in an arid climate with water access and long-term vision, pistachios represent value creation that annual crops cannot match. You're building an asset that produces for decades. The investment is significant. Trees, irrigation systems, land preparation, we're talking tens of thousands per acre up front. But the payback, once production starts, is substantial and long-term. The key is understanding that orchard crops are fundamentally different from annual crops. You're not farming for this year's income, you're building wealth for the next 30 years. That requires different thinking and different financial planning. Pistachios work in specific geographies and for specific situations, but for growers in suitable climates who can handle the weight, pistachios outperform commodity crops on total lifetime value per acre. That's a different metric than annual income, but it's how generational farm wealth gets built. Number 17. Goji berries. The functional food trend nobody's growing enough of. Lycium barbarum. These bright red berries sell dried for $15 to $40 per pound depending on quality. The functional food market has embraced them as a superfood, and domestic production hasn't kept up. Goji berries are marketed for antioxidants, immune support, and eye health. Whether the health claims match the hype is debated, but consumer belief drives purchase behavior. Consumers believe in goji berries. The plants are hardy shrubs that produce for 15 to 20 years. They're drought-tolerant once established. They grow in poor soils, and they produce abundant fruit that dries well in stores for months. Here's the market opportunity. Most goji berries are imported from China. Domestic organic goji berries command premium prices because consumers want to avoid import concerns and prefer local sourcing. The production model is straightforward. Plant bare root or container plants, provide basic support, harvest berries in late summer, dry thoroughly, package and sell. Growers report that established plantings can yield 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of fresh berries per acre. Dried weight is roughly 20 to 25% of fresh weight, so that's 400 to 1,000 pounds of dried berries at $20 to $35 per pound direct market pricing. The value-added opportunity exists. Dried berries to health food stores, fresh berries at farmers markets, trail mixes and blends. Each channel captures different margins. Goji berries made this list because they combine perennial production with functional food market trends and minimal competition. That's the formula for premium pricing and sustained demand. Number 18. Quinoa, the protein grain that escaped commodity pricing. Chenopodium quinoa. This ancient pseudo-cereal sells for $3 to $8 per pound. That's 10 to 30 times what corn brings. Quinoa became mainstream over the last 15 years. The gluten-free trend drove initial growth. The high protein profile sustained it. And now quinoa is standard in health food stores, regular supermarkets, and restaurant menus. Here's what makes quinoa interesting for growers. It's hardy. It tolerates poor soils and drought. It requires minimal inputs, and it's still primarily imported, which creates domestic opportunity. The challenge is processing. Quinoa has a bitter saponin coating that must be removed before sale. That requires equipment or buyer relationships with processors. But once you solve that, you're growing a crop that serves premium markets. Production in the U.S. is growing in the Mountain West and Pacific Northwest. Growers report 1,000 to 2,000 pounds per acre, which sounds low until you multiply by $4 to $6 per pound wholesale. The market is diverse. Health food companies want it. Restaurants use it. Home cooks buy it regularly. That broad demand creates stability. Quinoa works because it successfully escaped commodity pricing. It's a grain that sells like a specialty product, The protein content, the gluten-free angle and the superfood positioning mean you're not competing with wheat and corn on price. You're competing on nutrition and quality. This is the lesson. Sometimes a traditional crop category can be reinvented with the right product. Quinoa is grain farming, but it's not commodity grain farming. That distinction is worth thousands of dollars per acre. Number 19. Sichuan pepper. The numbing sensation restaurants can't get enough of. Xanthoxylum simulans. This isn't actually pepper. It's the dried husk of a citrus family seed pod, and it creates a unique tingling, numbing sensation on the tongue that's essential in Sichuan cuisine. High-quality Sichuan pepper sells for $40 to $80 per pound. The demand from restaurants serving authentic Sichuan, Hunan, and other regional Chinese cuisines is strong. But domestic supply is almost non-existent. Here's the market dynamic. Sichuan cuisine is having a moment. From hot pot restaurants to mapo tofu to dan dan noodles, Americans are discovering these flavors. But authentic Sichuan pepper is hard to source domestically. The plant itself is a small tree or large shrub that's hardy to Zone 6. It produces prolifically once established. The harvest is labor-intensive but manageable at small scale. The opportunity is clear. If you can grow quality Sichuan pepper, you have restaurants and spice companies ready to buy. The import market has quality control issues and shipping costs. Local growers solve both problems. Here's what makes this practical. The trees require minimal inputs once established. They produce for many years. And the per-pound pricing is exceptional because the product is specialized and hard to find. Some growers are experimenting with different Xanthoxylum species to see which produces the best flavor and numbing effect. This is still developing knowledge, which means early movers have opportunity to establish expertise. Sichuan pepper made this list because it represents the intersection of authentic global cuisine trends and limited domestic production. That gap is where premium pricing lives. Number 20. Macadamia nuts. The premium tree nut most people aren't growing. Macadamia integrifolia. These nuts sell for $10 to $25 per pound wholesale depending on quality and market. Retail prices are even higher. They're among the most expensive tree nuts globally. Macadamias are grown primarily in Hawaii, Australia, and South Africa. But they can be cultivated in California, Florida, and other subtropical regions. The trees are attractive, productive, and long-lived. Here's what makes macadamias valuable. The flavor and texture are premium. They're used in high-end chocolates, premium cookies, and specialty foods. The plant-based milk market is exploring macadamia milk, and snack nut consumers pay premium prices. The investment timeline is similar to other tree nuts, 5 to 7 years to significant production, but mature trees produce for 40-plus years. We're talking about building long-term production assets. The per-acre economics are strong. Established orchards report 2,000 to 4,000 pounds of in-shell nuts per acre. After shelling and processing, that's roughly 500 to 1,000 pounds of kernel. At $15 to $20 per pound, the math works. Here's why this matters. Tree nuts are permanent crops. You're not replanting annually. You're managing a long-term ecosystem. The labor shifts from planting to harvesting and maintenance. The income becomes predictable once production starts. Macadamias work for growers in suitable climates who understand that they're building agricultural infrastructure, not chasing annual yields. That's a fundamentally different approach, but it's how you create lasting value. The premium nut market is stable and growing. From health-conscious snackers to gourmet food manufacturers, demand exists. Supply is limited by geography and production timelines. That's opportunity, so there you have it. 20 crops that statistically outperform corn and soybeans in value per pound, value per acre, or market growth. Let's be clear about what this means. I'm not saying commodity crops are bad. Corn and soybeans feed the world. They're essential. They're the backbone of American agriculture. But here's what I'm saying. Commodity farming competes on volume and efficiency. Every farmer growing corn is competing with every other farmer growing corn. When prices drop, margins disappear. You're forced to scale up or get out. Specialty crops compete on value and scarcity. You're not fighting millions of acres of competition. You're serving specific markets that are undersupplied. Markets where customers pay premium prices because alternatives don't exist. That's a completely different business model. The farmers who thrive in the next decade won't just be the ones with the most land. They'll be the ones who understand markets, who serve demand nobody else is meeting, and who capture value instead of chasing volume. These 20 crops prove that opportunity exists, not in theory, in practice, with real markets, real buyers, and real pricing data. Some serve the wellness industry, some serve restaurant markets, some serve functional food trends, some serve spice markets that are desperately undersupplied domestically, but they all share one thing: they reward knowledge and quality over scale and volume. That's the game worth playing if you're a small to mid-sized grower. Here's what I want you to think about. What if you took just 1 acre and dedicated it to a high-value specialty crop? What if instead of growing 160 bushels of corn worth maybe $800 gross, you grew something worth $15,000, $30,000, or even $50,000? What would that do for your operation? What would that do for your family? What would that mean for your farm's future? The land is the same, the season length is the same, the sunlight is the same. The only thing that changes is what you plant and who you sell to. That's the power of market selection. Now I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, would you rather scale acres or scale value? Would you rather farm more land with thin margins or farm less land with premium pricing? And here's my challenge. Pick one crop from this list, just one. Research the market in your area, find out who's buying, figure out if you can grow it in your climate, do the math on 1 acre. You might be surprised at what you discover. If this video changed how you think about farming and profit, smash that like button. It tells YouTube to share this with more growers who need to see it. And if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because next week I'm breaking down the actual profit per acre math on 5 of these crops, including startup costs, labor hours, and real-world margins from growers currently doing it. You don't want to miss that. Remember, the most profitable farms aren't always the biggest, they're the most strategic. Thanks for watching. Now go grow something valuable.